Hi, Gillian.
Hello. Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for talking to me today about online learning. You've been a lecturer at York for a while now. You've been teaching in the CMA department, the humanities, even Canadian studies at Glendon. But I'm really interested in all your learning initiatives at York. You've been collaborating with AMP Technology, and you developed and redesigned two very large enrollment film courses, and I think I was your TA in one of them last semester, Film 1900. But what's also interesting is you've earned a lot of recognition, international e-learning associations, and the Teaching Commons at York University, and in 2017, you received the AMPD e-learning teaching award, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much.
And thank you for talking with me. But I guess my first question is, I just want to know, how are you? How are you doing?
Good. I'm good, all things considered. I think I joke with my family that I think in some ways I've been practicing social distancing my whole life. It's like I'm an introvert. I tend to hunker down. So it's not that difficult, although I have to say it's a little strange not being able to venture out and explore. I think that's driving a lot of people crazy. They can find areas in which we're able to circulate.
So one of my first questions I thought about when I asked you to do this is, what do you like about online learning?
The freedom and the flexibility, for one thing. You're not tied to a physical presence in a classroom. You don't actually have to be in the classroom delivering the lectures or the course material at a particular set time every week. And I think that's the same for students who need the freedom and flexibility of it as well. There are students who live far away. There are students who are international, students with families, students with jobs, so they can adjust the schedule to the material and vice versa. There seems to be better latitude of choices in terms of how you design the material, how you deliver the material. And it seems to be, for me, a more collaborative experience because I'm meeting and talking with so many other faculty and experts in e-learning and getting all kinds of new ideas all the time.
I was wondering, because I was your TA in Film 1900, what were some of the challenges you were facing while teaching online even before COVID-19?
Well, it's probably the same thing that makes it so exciting is the lack of physical presence in the classroom. So I think the challenges really are building community, giving the students a sense that they're part of something, that they have a connection to something, and also the sense of engagement in the material. How do you get them to really focus and zoom in on what you're doing the way they might have to in a classroom instead of just kind of having 10 screens open at once and doing a bunch of other things. I think also it's been a real challenge for instructors who never taught online before. I think that's a big leap in their learning.
Especially, I had almost 100 students. It was hard, to learn their names and to try to make that connection, which I relied on so much in the classroom. In an online setting took me completely outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah, you have to really establish a kind of presence. And I learned a lot from other instructors. I had one of the first times I was working on an online course, the instructor would film herself at her favorite local bakery eating macaron, which was an obsession of hers. And the students just loved that. They just had that sense of her as a person. Mm-hmm. So I sometimes will have things, I'll have my dog in the image with me. So this is what we're discovering also as all these celebrities and news shows are going online. When that unexpected thing happens, when a child wanders into the room, everybody loves it because it gives you that sense of intimacy with someone who otherwise is so far apart.
In your opinion, what are some of the biggest misconceptions academics and even students have about online learning?
People think it's easy. It's a walk in the park. Mm-hmm. People think that, it's like Instagram or like any of the other social media apps or internet websites that we use, and that it's easy to transition, but it actually takes rethinking a lot of the things that we take for granted in terms of putting courses together, in terms of how we teach, but also how students learn. And it teaches us a lot about ourselves and our capacity for concentration, for focus, for self-discipline. Mm-hmm. All of that is a big part of it as well. And what people don't realize is you really have to be very disciplined. You have to sit down and you have to establish a work time for yourself. When you're going to access the work, you have to designate a kind of, and now especially with everything blended in together and people working from home, you have to have work time, that's separated from everything else that's going on, and a workspace, a designated workspace. And so that's some of the things I tell my students also. When the lines start to blur, that you've got to figure out when you're going to sit down and do this work. And as a result of that, I've now started to build, and we have this in Film 1900, which you were working on, a kind of course plan or course map for them that establishes a routine. This is when you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that. And I find that that helps a lot. But the misconception is that the freedom is misleading, that people think they have all the time in the world to get to it. And you really do have to stay on top of it.
I'm just wondering how pedagogical objectives are different online than in the classroom. As you're thinking about these building blocks, as you're thinking about building these courses and making these courses for students.
I think really the issue is the methodology of putting across the material. And I'm finding now that how we learn in person and is not the same as how we learn online at all. So there's a way to get the material across, but in different kinds of bites and different kinds of segments, smaller, shorter lectures. So they're getting guidance all the way through, not just at the end of an assignment where they get a grade and feedback, but they're being talked to all the way through.
I guess that goes to one of my questions is, how do you know when something's not working online?
Oh, well, technologically, we see that immediately when students can't access things or things don't work, or we've had that many, many times. And so we spend a lot of time trying to eliminate things that have the potential to go wrong in a million different directions. In terms of pedagogy, I will pop in and read the discussion forums from time to time, and I can see when students are not getting the concept. I like the discussion forums because it's a very immediate way and a very informal way to test student learning. You can see by the way they're discussing whether they're way off or whether they get it and they just need to talk it through. And they're not bogged down by the formalities of essay writing. They're just expressing themselves. And that was a huge liberating thing with the forums, because the essays were, sometimes they were so concerned about essay writing that they couldn't actually get across their ideas. They were too constrained. So the forums are a great check.
I've been reading a lot online about, our current moment in online learning and different people making different predictions about what this means, potentially what this means for the fall. The fall semester is a bit up in the air right now. And I was just sort of wondering, where do you see online learning going? Do you see a permanent change coming because of COVID? I'm just wondering what you think our new normal, whatever that means, might be with online learning.
I think there were huge initiatives at York to stimulate and encourage online learning. There's all these funds for creating online courses. So that was already in play. I think now, because of COVID-19, many instructors who would not have gone online are being obliged to go online. So they're learning new skills. And there may be things that they really like about it, that they will keep going forward. Perhaps more instructors will opt to teach online. Maybe more students will look at the online courses and go, I kind of enjoyed that. I kind of see how that works. Maybe I'll take more of them. I think it's going to present certain challenges for courses that require physical presence. If you're on a production, for example, if you're in a performance-based field like theater or dance, if you do art, sculpture, painting, I think the whole methods of creating those pieces of work and critiquing them is going to change quite a bit too. And so this is actually what we're workshopping now. How do we facilitate this? This is a big discussion in AMPD right now for those instructors and classes that are dealing with studio or art or performance. I'm amazed at the creativity that I'm seeing out there and the innovation that I'm seeing out there, how people are rising to the challenge. And I think it'll change things in a very good way, actually. I think it will. I think it'll really add to the existing core of courses that we have. And I think even those professors who resisted teaching online or had courses that they didn't think could be taught online might be moved to experiment a little and dabble in this in ways that will really enhance they're face-to-face or blended courses.
Online, there's a lot of articles right now focusing on this question of we're all in this together. How do we do this? How do we adapt? And I'm seeing sort of a theme of how to quickly teach online, 5 easy steps, how to do online. And I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit about the labor behind putting a course online.
I saw some of those articles, and what they don't tell you is how much work there is in each of those 5 easy steps.
Yeah.
So they break it down into 5 easy steps, but they don't show you what it takes to get to that step and to move on to the next one. So when I first started teaching online, I was in a panic because I had to learn the technology, which was relatively new, and as I said, translate classroom knowledge into online knowledge. The technology is 10 times better now. So once you get your course up and ready to run, there's all these experts to help you, but it's really rethinking how you're going to present the material. That's really the key to all of this, is having to rethink what you know or think you know and translate it into this new online language. And I think the biggest challenge is understanding the students and the way they think. That's always been a huge challenge. So it's not just about, I've got all this material and I've got to teach it to you so I can give you a grade and you can move on. But also, how do students learn, and how are they thinking, and how are they absorbing this material? So it takes a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of collaboration, a lot of discussion with other online educators, research into best practices and e-learning methods, and experimentation. You can't be afraid to go out there and try it and fall on your face and say, that doesn't work. That did not work at all. That was a disaster. We're not going to do that again next year. And not to be afraid to say to your students, whoops, that didn't work so well. We're going to try this other method as well. The 5 easy steps, I think you can identify 5 steps that you need to take, but I think people underestimate also the amount of thought that goes into it. And planning, well, here's the thing, I would say planning in advance is huge. Mm-hmm. My courses are always planned a year in advance. But now, in this post-COVID-19 reality, we don't have the time to do that. So it's a question of just jumping in, talking to other people, getting advice wherever you can. And we have tremendous facilities on campus. We've got technology departments in every faculty who are there to help. We've got LTS, we've got computing services, we've got the teaching commons, and we've got the Department of Education, who has consultants who are experts in this and getting you to understand the best way to get this material into students' heads. So I think as long as we're talking and working with each other, not operating in little silos, not this is my course, but this is our course. How do we all make this course better? I think that those 5 steps will become a little easier, not steep for everybody.
I wanted to ask you my last question, because you brought up memes before in our discussion. And and this is sort of one of our standard questions we want to be asking everybody in this series is there a meme out right now that is encapsulating maybe how you're feeling? I can share mine because I found one today.
Well, that's hilarious.
And that's really, really how I'm feeling right now I'm really resonating with my dog of why they're so excited for car rides, to see me at the end of the day, and people.
So this is one of them.
Yeah, resonating with that one today too.
This is my other one that I love. So that goes to that creativity of just, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this into a learning object? Yep. But yes, it's a lot of humor out there, which I'm really appreciating. A lot of Black humor, but also some very, very funny parodies and ironies. We just got to keep laughing and keep our heads up.
Exactly. Well, Gillian, I want to thank you so much for speaking with me and answering all of my questions.
Oh, my pleasure. This was great. This was a great learning lesson for me too.